Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
And everybody, hello and welcome back. It is week 2 on the Hawk build. I have been told reliably that this is something like 1/48th scale. Again, it does not say scale anywhere on the box that I could see. It is meant to go with the much larger 22-inch Eagle, and I think they are more concerned with the length of the Eagle than its scale. The 22-inch, I believe, was half scale of the 44-inch filming model. And I don't check me on my math, but I think there were also 22-inch filming models. But that's what they're going on. It's the filming model size, more importantly, than the scale of the ship. And this is meant to be a companion piece to that 22-inch version. I think some people have rounded it up to like 1/48th or something. Anyway, worked on some of the seam work this morning, doing some sanding, and then I realized this ugly seam right here and this ugly seam right here, don't worry about those. They get covered up. They're right next to each other when you do this. So as long as this much of it is pretty and the outside edge of it is pretty, that's all you need to worry about. You don't need to worry about this seam at all from here to here. Because it is, like I said, covered up. So spend your energy wisely on things that are going to show, and don't be too concerned about the things that don't. That's your free lessons for today. So it's going to go something like that. And of course the other one's going to go on the other side of it. I've been working on sanding up these edges, getting them nice and clean. The top and bottom of the cockpit is always a sore spot on the Eagle. It's always because it's a very noticeable seam. So you want to make sure you've got that good and clean. Now I'm going to mask over these windows that I put in last week to keep them clean. And then I will put another primer coat over this seam to see how much more cleanup it needs. Again, this area here is also suspect. You've got a wing that goes in. It's an indent. It's kind of calls itself out to be a seam as long as this back ring here is taken care of. And I know there's like a little, I call them teeth because they look like teeth. A little toothy detail that goes over the area right in here. But this ring here stands out, and there's an issue in that this part of the back has a very well, you can hear it. It's ribbed. It's got ridges there. If you sand those off, they're going to be gone. So try to be careful not to sand off that texture. Let's see, where are we? Well, we got this piece finished up. It's glued together and ready to be put on the top here. And we're going to almost be to the point where I think the next coat is going to be the white primer coat. This was the gray primer coat to see all of the mistakes. So I think the next thing to do would be to get the white sandable primer coat on this and see how it looks from there. I'm back, and then we're in the refining the masks stage. And what I've got is I've got the final shapes now for the front windows. These will be masked for the longest amount of time because I want to keep that clear. What we need to do now is put another light coat of gray over top of this, and then we're going to mask some areas that we want to keep gray, and then we're going to spray white over the whole thing, and then we're going to mask some areas that we're going to want to keep white, because then we have the orange that goes over top of that. Now the orange is going to react better, and it's going to be a happier orange if it's going over white rather than if it's going over gray. That's why I want to do the whole thing white and then mask off areas to keep them white, and then, like I said, put the orange over top. Now that only happens on the head. It happens on these caps that go on the front of each of the nacelles. I'm going to call them nacelles because I'm used to that terminology. They are boosters. And the orange also goes on the big Well, we'll give you the example here. The big areas of orange are the head, the fronts of these, and the big booster here. Now there's little orange accents everywhere else, and we could certainly make masks to spray those. A lot of that is being taken care of by the decals. These orange stripes here, those are meant to go in areas so you don't have to paint them. But we want to be careful that if we're going to do that, that we need to make sure that there is white underneath those so that our oranges will kind of match up. We do have some gray shapes here that are decals, and what I'd like to do for some of those is to mask after we've sprayed everything gray, is to mask those and keep them gray and then paint the white over top of it. Therefore we don't need to use the decals. That's the case on these shapes here on the boosters. I want to mask those and keep them gray and then paint the white over top of it. I've cleaned up, these cleaned up real nice. These were the seams that I had sanded. I want to check those again to make sure that they're in good shape before I sign off on them. But let's see. Now that I've got these front windows masked, I can go ahead and respray this main body with the gray primer. So let's do that now, and then we'll get ready to start masking some of the smaller shapes. Okay, I'm back. I was working on these little guys, and this piece right here jumped off the table and rolled to the furthest corner underneath the table. But of course, didn't find it until after I had done a good round of cleaning. And you know, once that starts, you have to, you find yourself just caught in this loop of cleaning stuff. So that's all to take care of. Found the part, glued it back on, sprayed some primer. I can see where the seam is jumping back at, so I'm going to have to get some putty on that. So I'm going to look at some of these other pieces here that could stand to get some priming now. This has all been glued together, and of course I need to repaint this seam. Now these boxes here and this guy here need to stay gray. Actually the decals go over top of that, but they're gray decals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this gray and mask those shapes off so that when I paint the orange over top of it, those will still be gray. These are the big shapes that need to stay gray. Yeah, I'm just trying to do some glue and then some seaming and some, every time you think something is done, another seam jumps out. I have been lately trying to cut back on the amount of glue that I'm using, because sometimes it swamps it and gets where you don't want it to, but then I'll come back and find out that parts have not been, after I've sprayed them, I can see where the parts have not been fully glued, so I end up having to re-glue them, which is just as big a waste of time as anything else. So I just need to regulate that a little bit better. Throw a clamp on this and set it aside, and it'll be ready to tackle in a bit. Oh, stop. Having one of those bad coordination days. There. Which is why the glue is going back into the holder. Whenever I feel one of these bad coordination days coming on, I make sure that the glue bottle is nowhere near any place where I can knock it over, because you only have to do that about 10 or 12 times to realize what a bad idea that is. So now that these tips have been glued on, I'm going to go ahead and do the engines so that this is all one piece. Actually, there's some details around the bottom here that I need to take care of. Let me do those first, and then we'll worry about it, because there's only a certain amount of time left where these will stand up by themselves like this, because once you put those tilted engine bells on, they won't stand up by themselves anymore. Okay, so maybe the last thing we'll do on a Monday is to get a first coat of white on everything. I have masked off that which I wish to keep gray, which is these spots. Now this whole thing will be orange after I put the white on it. So what we're going to do is we're keeping all the stuff gray that we want to keep gray, and then we'll mask everything that is that we want to keep white. Like there will be a mask that goes around here so that I can paint the top of this orange. But first of all, we want to mask off the stuff that's going to stay gray and put a white layer on it. That includes these guys. I've got to add some down the neck here, down the spine. I guess that's the spine. Technically, this is the spine. I guess the vertebra. I don't know. It's anatomy. It's all part of the same thing. But these are ready. I'll leave them on the tree, but I will put a white coat on them as well. Let's see. Yeah, these bits can get a white on them. Yeah, so we're ready for the next step, which is to put a coat of white on everything and then let that dry, perhaps overnight. Oh, good morning. Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I am moving slow today. I screwed my back up over the weekend, and I thought yesterday if I took it easy it would come back, but no. It is acting up again today, so moving slowly. Mostly done with the white coat on the hawk here. We're getting ready to start doing the orange work, and you can still see little hints of some masking material where I have masked off things that I want to keep gray, and I think I'm going to do maybe a little bit more of that type of masking, and then what would be nice would be to go ahead and put in maybe some mists of, see, these aren't attached. I'm just piecing everything together here so you can see kind of how it's laying out. There is some more whiting obviously to be done, but I want to do some light gray work in there too, and I think it might be handy to continue to mask some other things to make sure that they are staying this white. What's important in here is I need to mask all of these so that when I put the orange over it, it stays white. That kind of stuff. I'm going to get ready for the orange masking, and that's a lot of this area here. That is some stripage that we can mask around and get ready to paint. So that's what we're going to do next. Also on these guys, I need to mask off this bit and this front so that this body here could be painted orange. Howdy ho there, friends and neighbors. It is Wednesday, and it's time to start doing the orange, the impactful stuff, the stuff that's really going to show up. And I'm feeling a little better today, but still I have to move ever so gently because, you know, anybody who's had a back twinge or a back spasm knows that they happen when you are not paying attention, just turning the wrong way, and all of a sudden you get a flare up, and you're trying to be gentle with yourself. But today we're going to do some big showy painting of orange things. Now I'm rounding up all the parts that have got orange on them or need orange on them. I have masked off for the most part all the areas, so nothing left but to throw some orange paint in the airbrush and see how she splashes. So let's get to it. Okay, the orange is drying now, and as is always the case, it is never, always and never in the same sentence, I hate that, it is never a straight color. It is 95% orange, X6 Tamiya orange, with just a drop of XF9 Hull Red in it, which gives you a little slightly deeper orange. Now you could say, well, Lou, why don't you just use the straight orange and paint it over the gray primer? And I would say, shut up, you smarty. No, I still like painting over white because I think it gives me a truer color. It's just that it allows me, once I'm starting with a white foundation, that's why canvases are white, for heaven's sakes. You put white gesso over it so that your colors are true on top of white. And what I have found is that this orange, it might be your typical Irwin Allen orange, but it's actually, a little bit plasticky, a little bit toy-like. So just the barest hint of a hull red into it really just deepens it down. And so we're going to let the orange dry, and then we're going to start peeling masks off. And once we do that, we could finish up with actual construction. And then decals, and we'll be done with this thing. It is Wednesday today. I don't see any reason why we can't finish it this week. It's a quick build. Most of the parts are done. It's just a matter of joining them and then putting the framework on top. Alrighty, now the paint has had plenty of time to dry, so let's start stripping these masks off and see what we got. I know this is exciting, riveting stuff for you, but here you go. I'm trying to make sure I'm doing all this within camera range. There you go. And now that all the orange has been done, I can see what needs touching up in the white/gray arena and start to get the rest of this thing put together. Why are you fighting me? Stop. There you go. Get the silver paint out next to do these the engine bells. Yes, I know you're bored. And oh, hot stuff gets everywhere. One last showy one here on the engine, on the thruster fuel cell. There you go, nice white stripe. That's done. Let's go ahead and take this big one off. Looking good along the bottom. And looking good at the top. And remember, we still have the window itself masked off here. So I expect to see a lot of white, but know that the window is clear behind all of that. Now I'm also going to include masks for if you want to have these windowsills be black, because I know that there is a appetite for that. So there'll be black vinyl that you just put down there instead of painting it. You would just lay the black vinyl down. But I'm going to leave these white because I did black on the smaller 72 scale Hawk. So I kind of want to show the differences. There you go. There's a nice white head there. I still have some of these masked that I will leave dark gray for right now. And let's see what else. Oh, we've got the last bits. We've got the engines here. Let's see, it's like finding the edge of an end of a roll of tape sometimes. Remember, these were the gray shapes that I masked off earlier. Some of these get decals over them, but I think the decals will look better going over gray than they will trying to go over top of this orange. Gotta be careful about how thick a coat of orange I put over these. There you go. I don't think I'm going to need to re-white these, but I might want to in some instances. I just need to see how it's going to lay on the kit to see whether or not I might want to brighten some of this up. Now it also will pay to remember that there is masking underneath these as well. Those are masked off there. Well, you know, that's what you get when you don't put enough glue on something. Remember the other day when I was saying I didn't think I was putting enough glue on stuff? That's what I mean. The circle mask comes out, and then all that's left are these bits here. Now I can, some of this that has a little bit of overspray, I can touch that up with white paint and it would still be easier than trying to paint over these if they were completely orange. Alrighty, just doing some manual touch-up because you know you can't do everything with an airbrush. You gotta paint some things by hand. So I was just going in there and refining some shapes and cleaning up some stuff, repainting grays and whites and even a little bit of the orange. So it's good to remember your formulas when you're trying to recreate them, so that I could touch up just, you know, where I might have a little bit of overspray or something else going on. And that's where we're going to leave it for a bit of today. We're going to finish this up. I think we'll finish up construction tomorrow, which will leave decaling for Thursday and Friday. Yay. Hey everybody, it's Thursday, the gateway to the weekend. Yay! We are going to finish up at least the construction of the Hawk today, and we might even start on the decaling. It's all, I have released the remaining parts from their tree. I have to spray some silver on these. But it's all down to detail painting and a bit of construction. And I got the spine on it. This is where the details really bring this kit to life. It's pretty basic without them. So let's go ahead and get those off. And then these all have, these are rings that go around them. But they need to be painted black first. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And we can put the last of these details down. Instructions, please. Yeah, because it's all the delicate pipe work and stuff. So it's going to be easier, and you know me, I'm always for the easier solution, to go ahead and paint those inner bits here before we put the bells around the outside. So let's take care of that, and we'll see if there's any other little detail painting. Now there's going to be a chunk of tiny decals that go on, notably around the girders and such. So that's going to make up the bulk of maybe tomorrow's work. So let's get the last of the bits painted and built. Okay, so I am working on the final details, getting them all in place and putting them on the hock. And I have to tell you, even though it might sound like whining and moaning, there is a considerable amount of flash, or I guess it's flash. It's seam lines on this kit, and it's particularly noticeable on the girder work. Now, the Eagles suffered the same problem. Anytime you had the two-part mold coming together, if it's not, you know, down to the micron, you're going to get you're going to get extra plastic smooshed out between the two parts of the mold. And this being a brand new mold, a brand new kit, I was hoping to have a little less of that, but it means annoyingly that you've got to take a file and clean up all of the sides of these parts to get rid of the flash that's happening between the top and bottom of the molds. And like I said, it's really noticeable on these girders, and that's an annoyance. It's not something you should have to put up with, but that's going to go in place. I need to get the glue on that, and then we'll be ready to flip it over and do the last of the details on the bottom, which are these guys. I have touched up the paint. There will be another round of touching up the orange around this here, and touching up the white. But yeah, it's all coming together now. It's just a matter of the ever-decreasing circles, as I like to refer to it. You start out with your whole model, and then you work your way around it, and you work in smaller and smaller circles until you're doing the last touchy touches. And there we are with everything but the little wingies put on. I'm going to work on those outside because those can be put on literally at any time. So I'm going to take advantage of that fact and leave them off for a little while longer. All of the frameworks are in, all the little details are in. I'm starting to touch up some of the tiny details, like painting the wee engine bells there, the directional thruster bells. Thinking I might want to do just a little bit of black scorching, maybe where it comes close to the hull there, but perhaps not top and bottom and front, since it doesn't really impact that much. I do need to do the scorching at the back of the main engine bells. I've touched up the orange, I've touched up the white. These black bits here will be handled with black vinyl. And then we're down to decaling. Okay, so we finished up the day with a nice coat of clear satin on here, so that we're going to let that dry overnight so that I can do the decaling tomorrow and then call it a done ship. Did a little bit more touch-ups. I got the black out, and I touched some on the nose there, and did the charring on the thrusters there on the engines. Put a little bit on that back, just on that back thruster there. Looking pretty good. These still aren't glued in. Like I said, they could go in and out at any time. I may take them off to decal around them and to decal on them themselves, keep them separate. But here you can see next to the, I don't like that. I may have to glue that down or do something to keep that from, from spinning so badly. But here you can see next to the smaller eagle, or the smaller hawk, I'm going to leave these side panes, leave that all white. And then actually, no, I was going to say I was going to peel that off and let you see the black inside. But after I put the decals down, I still want to flat coat it. So I don't want to put any of those vinyls down until after the flat coating has happened. So that's it for today. We'll pick it back up tomorrow. Morning, everybody. It is Friday. It is the last work day of the week. Last work day on this Hawk, I'm pretty sure. It's decal day. Yay! Everybody loves decal day. What we're going to do is we're going to start on the bottom and work our way around. If I can get the bottom done in time for lunch, then I can let that be drying and then flip it over and do the top. We give it the whole thing a flat coat spray and we'll be done. Now, there are a ton of decals, and they're the funky type. They are the type that have little bits of illustration on them, and they have some extraneous lines. It's not just color, it's little detail things that are drawn on that can make it look a little cartoony at times, depending on how well it's done. Some of these decals have been made redundant by the painting. Like, we don't need to put the decals for these stripes on here because they have been painted, which is good because that way you know your oranges are matching. On these smaller decals where the orange isn't as well, I did a pretty good job. I did matching them up, but it's not as vital that those oranges match. But you know, you kind of want the big areas to all have the same color. So we're going to start by doing some of these multitudinous ones on the bottom. I still don't have the wings glued on, only because it's going to be easier to work with those. I could put those on afterwards. So we're going to start along the bottom and move all this stuff out of the way. I've got my illustrations here, my guides here. Let me see, flip this around so I can see what's going on. I got my guides here, got my victim on the turntable here. I've got my accoutrements, got my X-Acto knife, my tweezers, my brush. I need to get some Q-tips out. That's what I need to do. And we'll be ready to go. Okay, I think we've reached a good stopping point, or at least a resting point. I've got majority of the decals on the bottom done. I've also got the tops of the wings done. And I'm coming up on the diminishing returns portion of it. It's like, yeah, there's a million of these tiny little greebly decal, Letraset type decals, and it's really up to you how many of those you want to put on there. I'm more interested in the big panel type things, and I like putting the white greeblies over the orange. I think that looks good, but there's only so much of that you really need to do over all of the white. I mean, the Eagles suffered the same thing. They were over detailed for my eye, for just the size and the size of the kit. I think the decals are, some of these are, like you said, they're diminishing returns. So I'm not going to use a lot of the tiny Letraset type. Once I flip this over, there's orange that goes on the some of the girder work. Those are going to be fun to do. And the things that stand out from that. But really, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, how many of these do you need to put on an eagle or a hawk? Working on decals on the top now, and boy, am I really learning to hate doing decals on this spine piece, wrapping these pieces around. That might have been easier to do before you attach the piece down, come to think of it. These guys were a nightmare. These weren't much better, but I'm wondering now if it might not have been smarter to put the decals on the spine piece before you glue it down. Just something to think about out there in YouTube land if you are in fact building this kit. The little flat tiny decals seem to be going down just fine. These are a little, if they were thinner, you know, then you run the risk of them ripping and all of that, but they might wrap around a little easier if they were thinner. I've put the decals over these areas. Now, you remember I had painting masks for those, but that was to keep the area gray so that the decals would show up better against it. If you had not put that and painted it orange, then the decals would end up being darker against the orange. So that's the same thing as I did up here in a couple other spots. It wasn't because the gray was going to be the final color. it was because I was wanting to give it a more neutral base to go behind the decal. Okay, these last four just made a big fat liar out of me. See if I can zoom in on them. These went on beautifully. Let me back this up a little bit. These guys, they went on beautifully. I wish they were all California girls. I wish they were all as nice as that. Let's see, how many more do I have? I've got those, the 45s. I've got 2 more to take care of. And you know, I'm wondering, now there's some of these have like a black stripe front and back. Those would be nigh on impossible to paint. But these ones here, they probably could have been painted as easily as anything else. And let me see, I don't need that. See, we got those decals here for panels that I've already painted. I'm not going to be using those decals because I've already painted them. Chances are if they're gray, I've already painted it. Like there are decals for these, zoom back out. There are decals for these big shapes here, but we've painted those, so we don't need to use the decals for that. So that's something we could use, you know, on another kit somewhere. You could use those as, you know, scratch building decals. Need to see where 21 and 22 go, though. Those might be some problems. Okay, work continues. Alrighty, we are almost done. We're down to the wire. All of the decals that I'm going to put on this are done. I'm going to let them dry for a couple of hours. I'm going to, maybe that's not even long enough, but I'm going to let them dry for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to lightly spray everything with the flat coat. And then the last thing to do after we do that is to take these masks off here. I'm keeping them on now because the clear coat would fog up that window and I don't want to do that. So I'll take those masks off, and then I'm going to add the black vinyl that's going to go on the top here, but I'm going to do that again after the flat coat is on. So we're down to the wire. It's Friday afternoon. Got still 2 or 3 hours yet. I think we can get all this done in time. And that's the story. Alrighty, I have got the flat coat on. The flat coat is dried. Everything looks nice and lovely. Remember when you were dealing with a kit that's got so many large decals like this does, that you want to be extra careful to get your air bubbles out from underneath so that you don't trap anything under there and end up with silvering, which is ugly and no one likes. No one comes to silvering's birthday parties. It's ugly. I'm just putting on the vinyl for these black squares because I like this better than the decal. It's black, it's a flat color, it's easy to do this way. Plus it gives a little bit different finish to it. I always had it in the back of my head that these were some sort of solar panel. So why not? Oops, that's on a little bit crooked. See, now I was doing fine until I turned the camera on. So I just need to make sure I take my time. You got to make sure you're working around these the ones that have the notches on them, or the notches taken out of them, that you line them up carefully. And in this set, I also will include black window sills. If you don't want to paint those black, and that's for this area right up in here. I'm gonna, like I said, I think I said at the very beginning that I was gonna leave those white just to make a difference between that and this tinier version. But if you put the black vinyl that comes in here, you can get that same look just on these large windows. There you go, some handy shots against the cosmic backdrop, so you know if I've got the cosmic backdrop out that we're ready to call this done. Okay, that's a lot better. I was getting a lot of water washing out of all the white there, but that's what she looks like. Fun little build. And it's nice to do something. Of course, you're back in the orange category again. I need to get away from black, white, and orange, but what are you going to do? The air is the air. What can be done? But that's what she looks like with the nice backdrop behind her now. There you go. Whether you saw the thrusters appropriately all scorched up. Oh, and the windows, the masking taken off of the windows. And that's going to bring an end to the Hawk build. That was about a week and a half Hawk build. Sweet little ship. Very, very compact. I can fit this on a shelf above my Eagle and still have room on that shelf. So that's what I like about it. It's very, very short, very compact top to bottom. Still no landing gear. So how the heck does it land? But spin it around for you like that. Take the Hawk for a spin. Well, that's going to be the end of this build. Next week's build, I've got a pretty good suspicion it's going to be a return to the moon. It's going to be this guy that all the cool kids are building. Apparently, everybody is all building the same thing at the same time. I don't know what I can add any different to it to the discourse to make it worth your time, but we'll certainly try. So until then, you be good. Have a good weekend. Talk to you soon. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And we'll see you here next time.